Hi everybody, my name's Carrie. This is my little corner of YouTube where I get to share all my crafty things and get to talk about the stuff I'm making. It's mostly quilting and knitting, but sometimes some other stuff gets thrown into the mix. Today is January 17th, 2022, and it is my 100th episode. Woo! Yeah, 100 episodes in. Next month, in about a month from today, is my 6-year anniversary of doing my channel, and I just want to thank you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, for commenting. You've all been so generous and sweet and encouraging and inspiring to me, and I really, really appreciate it, because if it wasn't for you watching and commenting and engaging, it would just be me talking to my camera. So I appreciate it so very much. And as an appreciation gift to you, to somebody, for it being 100 episodes and for being 6 years of the channel, I am going to do a giveaway, and I'm going to give away this quilt. So I did talk about this quilt in episode, what was it, 86? 83. Episode 83 in July of 2020 is when I finished it. And I thought, you know what, I wanted to do something that was kind of a big giveaway, because I think it's a kind of a big milestone, or I feel like it is. And so I thought I will give away this quilt. So this is how it's going to work. I would like you to comment on this episode on YouTube, and I will pick through there's a YouTube comment picker program or something, and I will pick that way. It will be open to everybody. So I'm going to take my chances of this maybe going overseas and to some of you in other countries, and fingers crossed it would get to you. So only enter it if you have the means to collect it on your end. If you are over, like, say, in the UK, if there's customs that need to be paid, or whatever happens on your end, that you're willing to do that to receive this. If it's not something you're willing to do and you don't feel like you can do it, then please don't enter. But I thought, you know what, I've got some great viewers and had some really wonderful interactions with people from all over, and I don't want to limit it to just the United States. So it will be open to everybody. And what I would like you to comment is, my goal was to be part of a community, which I feel like I am. But I also find that I get inspired by watching other people's channels, and I hope that I inspire some of you. And I would like to know if there's something that I inspired you to do, something to try or to get back to, or anything like that. I would love to hear if there was something that I inspired you to conquer. If there wasn't anything, then maybe like a favorite something from an episode or something like that. So anyway, it'll be open from the time this goes up, and I will close it. What did I figure? I will pick using the YouTube comment picker program, whatever it is. I will pick on February 7th. So that gives 3 weeks, because I know it takes some time for some people to watch an episode. So I won't consider anybody after that. And then I'll contact, I'll maybe do a video, because I won't know who you are, more than likely. And we can converse and figure out how this is going to get to you. So the specifics on the quilt is, right now it's a 53 by 62 inch. I haven't washed it yet, so I will wash it before I send it to you. So it'll probably shrink a little bit. So it'll be a tiny bit smaller than that. It is these bright batiks with black, and then the backing is like a light gray, just a light gray floral, so kind of just generic. It's quilted with the pantograph. You can see all the details of it, like I said, in episode 83 if you want to go back and watch that. So if you'd like to do it, follow those things, leave a comment, we'll do the drawing, and we'll cross our fingers that whoever wins it actually gets it. So, yay! I also have another quilt that I am working on. that is behind on my design wall. So I will take this down in a minute and we'll talk about that. I have a new quilt, another new quilt that I'm making, and some finished things for knitting and some fun stuff. So sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. I was inspired when I was at my local knit night little group. We were talking about temperature blankets, temperature quilts, whatever it is. And I have really been wanting to do one since I saw them like a few years ago and just never felt like I could do it. I always thought about it kind of too late, and then it was like overwhelming to think of going back to the beginning of the year and whatever. So we were talking about it at knit night. And of course, we all get on Ravelry and we find all these wonderful crocheted blankets and knitted blankets and stuff doing the temperature thing. And I thought, I just don't see me crocheting one as much as I would love to. And I got really inspired by the one that somebody that I'm following, her handle on Instagram is January_1, and she posted her mostly completed crocheted temperature blanket from last year, and it was just stunning. And I thought, I need to do this. I just really was, I just need to do it. So the subject brought up at knit night, and we were just like, yes, we all want to do this. And I just don't see me actually doing a block a day of crochet or knitting or whatever every day for a year. I just know that I won't do that. So in trying to, still like the bug was still there, and get home and I'm still online, and I just started thinking like I want to do a high and a low temperature of the day. And so I thought, well, I wonder if you can crochet like a half triangle. And so I looked up, there is patterns for that. I did find somebody that had a tutorial on how to do that. And I thought, don't think I'm going to do that. I just don't think so. I think it's going to take too much time. But I can make a quilt, and I do have scrap fabric and I can make half square triangles in a quilt for sewing really fast. So that's what I decided to do. I'm going to end up making a wall hanging, and it's going to be a couple feet, 30 inches maybe by, I don't know, maybe 5 feet long. And so it'll be a long and slender wall hanging that I have a perfect place to hang in my house. So in thinking high temperatures and low temperatures, I separated my colors and my fabrics in 10-degree increments. And I started from like 0 to 10, which we occasionally, very rarely, but occasionally will get like 8 degrees or 9 degrees. It happens every so often, but not very often. So I have one fabric for that in the opportunity that may happen. And then I went from 0 to 10, and then from 0 to 9, and then from 10 to 19 and 20 to 29. And I did that 10-degree increments, a separate color for each. And I just dug in, like I've said before, I don't have yardage of fabric, but I have a lot of scraps. So I dug through my bins of scrap fabric and separated by color, and realized that like 50s and 50s to up to 80 there's going to be a lot of those colors, because from spring to fall we have a lot that's either a high temperature or low temperature in that range. So I have quite a few picked out for those individual 10-degree increments of quite a few fabrics. And within the color range, I went from light to dark. So I played with value a little bit, so that if it's a low, say it's the 40s, it's 41, it's a very light color. If it's 49, it's a little bit darker of a color. So within that colors family, it goes light to dark, so it still kind of plays with that temperature range. So what I did, I have this, and I've got it all organized, which I love, and it's in my new bag that I got for Christmas from a coworker. This is one of those 31 bags. I don't know, but I love it. It's perfect for this. And I pulled fabric and put them in bags. So this is the range from 40 to 49. And I have, you know, all different colors going from very light to a deeper, darker. There's darker ones in there. And so I will play with the value based on the temperature. Then we get into the 50s, and I have quite a bit more because there will be more 50s temperatures throughout the year. So I chose pink, and it goes from lighter to darker for the color. So I'll post a picture. I did post on Instagram what I was doing. 60s is going to be purples, so I go from light to dark in purples. And like I said, these are just scraps. They're good size scraps, obviously good enough, big enough to make something with. I don't keep the little tiny ones. I used to, but I've weeded through it because it's like, come on, you're not going to, you can throw things away. So I have thrown some of my scraps away. I went all the way up over 110 degrees. Now, I would have never thought to do that, but last year with the heat wave we had where we were like 116 for a few days, if by chance we have that again, I hope not because that was terrible, but if by chance we have that, I do have a color for that. So, yeah, when it gets to be really hot in the 90s, it's like hot, fiery red. So I think it's going to be really fun. And I've got it started. My idea is to do it 15 days so that pretty much a month is going to fit on 2 rows because I'm not wanting it to be real wide. So I have my first row sewn together. I don't think I made today's yet. So this is what I've got so far. So this is January 1st to the 15th. And like here we had a very high 30s and a high 50. So those are darker colors in those color families. Here we had a low 30s and a high 40, probably 49 or something. So that got darker. So I think it's going to add a little bit of interest. Here is the 16th. So yeah, I guess I did do I'm like a day behind because I need to wait. So today's the 17th. I'll look at what the high and low was for today, tomorrow, because it may get the low tonight. And I want to make sure that for some reason, I want to be really accurate, as accurate as I can be. So because not every month is 30 days, obviously you've got some that are 39, February's 28, 39, holy crap. You have some that are 31, February is 28, so it's going to vary. And in between the months, my thought is to put like a black square or something, because I will continue on. This will end, say, here, and then February will start. And so I want something that separates those months. And I thought of something like this. So I'll either do like a dark gray. I'm kind of liking this polka dot. So I might just do that because I think that adds some fun interest. And so that would be in between the months when I start a new month. And then, so every month is about 2 rows. So when I quilt it, when it's all put together, and then next year when I go to quilt it, I will have about a 4-inch section per month because these will finish at 2 inches. And my thought was that I've done this before. I print out letters, find a font that's kind of blocky, print that out, and then trace it on and quilt the month. So the month would be quilted on there or like outlined for each month through the year. And then at the bottom, I think I'll probably have a stretch of some black or something like that, and I'll somehow put the year. So then I was thinking, I'm like really excited about this. And then I was thinking it would be really fun to do this year, which is 2022, and then maybe next year, if this all goes okay and it goes according to plan, I'm going to keep all my colors, is to do one in the year I was born. Both Jim and I will be 60 this year, so we were both born in 1962, and I thought that would be kind of cool to see 2022 and 1962 temperatures next to each other. I just I don't know, I think that could be really cool. So the thing I'm trying to figure out is that when I was born, I grew up and I was born in Southern California. So clearly my temperatures would be different. Jim was born and grew up here in Oregon. But being that I've lived here the majority of my life, moved up here when I was almost 19 years old. So I've always felt like this was my home. I think I'll go by I'll even just go by the town I'm currently living in because it'll be close enough. And then it'll have a good comparison because it'll be 60-year difference to just see the difference in temperatures and how things looked. So I did some research on how do you find out like what the temperatures are, and you basically find a website that shows you. So I used, because it's a website that I'll use if I want to see what the temp's going to be somewhere, is Weather Underground. And there's a tab on there that you can see monthly or history or something like that, monthly, and it'll give you the high and low and the average for the month, for the day. So that's what I'm using. I have an app on my phone that just is like a note-taking app that I'm putting the temps in because sometimes I'm not up here to sew, but I at least want to document it. And then when I'm up here, maybe I'll do a couple of blocks at a time. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. So there's 2 weeks in January, what that looked like. And then like yesterday, the temperature range was only like a 5-degree range from our coldest to our warmest, but it was in the 30s and it was in the 40s. So I'd still get two different colors. I don't think I've had a day when they're both in the same. I did. I had a day here. Those are both green, which is my 40s. So it was upper 40s and lower 40s that day. So it did end up being the same color. But I think when you see a whole entire thing, it's going to be scrappy enough. And I just think it's going to look really cool. So if you have a preference or you have an idea of what you think the spacer should be, those are your options. And what this is just a piece of foam core board. And I just, see my high tech? I taped it to the back of foam core board. And then I'm using applique pins. So they're teeny tiny little pins to pin it on. I don't know if you can see that there. And so I'm just pinning it on, and when I got, my whole first row done, then I sewed it together. But I could sew like a few at a time. Yeah, so I'm excited to see where this is going to go. And it's very doable for me. I do know that I will finish it because it is really, really not taking me much time at all. One of the things that I did when you're going to use quilt, or you're going to make what's called a half square triangle, and that's what those are. It's the square, half the square is 2 triangles, so it's called a half square triangle. There's a formula to use to cut a square and cut the diagonal to end up with your finished size. And I found a website that had a printout sheet, and this is super handy. So I have this, I keep it in a page protector, and I just have it with my sewing stuff. And so I know that I wanted my finished block to be 2 inches. I found that, it tells me what size to cut my squares. So I cut my squares at 3 1/8 because I want it to be oversized. And then I cut the diagonal. And a lot of times you'll do a square, you'll draw the line, and then you'll sew a 1/4 inch on either side. Well, because that would end up making 2 identical squares. Well, I don't want 2 identical squares. I just want the one for that particular day's temperatures. So I'm cutting it in half, sewing the 2 together, and then I'm using my block lock ruler, which I've talked about before. It has the groove, and trim it down to unfinished. It's 2.5 inches. When it all gets sewn together, there'll be 2 inches. So I just have my block lock ruler with my fabric, and I check my temperature, pull out my little pieces that I need, and as I'm going, I have, because I'm taking a square and cutting it in half, I have extra. So sometimes I don't even have to cut. I already have the triangles cut up, and it's just a matter of sewing it together and trimming it. So it's been really fun. I know it's only the 17th of January, but I'm really feeling like I can stick with this. It is definitely doable for me. So Have you started a temperature blanket, a temperature whatever? I'd be curious to know. I'm excited. I'm excited. So, okay, so I'm going to take down this quilt so that I can talk about the quilt that is behind me on the wall. Okay, so as you can see, I am making some progress on the Kaleidoscope quilt. I have talked about this in previous episodes. I am making the Kaleidoscope quilt by Lori Holt. I am in the process of putting the blocks together. So I had all of it put up on my design wall so I could make sure that my colors were being separated enough. If I had just started to put it together, I could have ended up with all the same color for the last block or something like that. So I put it all up on my design wall and I'm taking it down one by one. I put it on my little portable ironing thing and bring it to my sewing machine, and I'm adding the little corner pieces. That's what's missing on the wall. And then I just sit there and I sew a block. Now it does take a little bit of time, partly because the way the pattern was written, everything's pressed open, and I generally don't like to do that, especially for quilts. I don't like to do that. But the way that the pattern is written, she's written it to press them open. So in doing that, you don't have a way to lock the seams. How can I describe this? So say this piece of fabric, if I had pressed this way, then I have like a ridge and I could butt up my other seam and like lock that in so that doesn't move. Being that everything's open, I'm having to be really careful about how I'm lining up my seams, and I'm actually having to pin, which I don't generally pin when I quilt. So it just goes a little bit slower. I did some pretty good progress on it this weekend, and I'm about halfway. I've got 13 of the 25 blocks put together. Once all the blocks are put together, I will rearrange them on the design wall so that I'm making sure color-wise everything looks good. And then it's got sashing, so strips of fabric that go between each block, and then a border, and then I think I'm done. So I'm really wanting to get this finished so that because I'm really excited to work on something different. And I need to get this done so I can take it off my design wall. Even if I got it as far as just doing the blocks and then put it away. I've mentioned before I'm making this for my friend's daughter, who looks to me like I'm an aunt, so we're pretty close, but she's potentially getting engaged this year and potentially getting married this year, and I want to make her a quilt for her wedding gift. And I know it takes a long time, so I've started early. So if I get the blocks done and then all that's left is to do sashing and that kind of stuff, I can put it aside for a little bit, do something kind of more fun, and then go back to it because it wouldn't take me too long to finish it at that point. I then hesitate to do that because I'm afraid I won't go back to it. But I'm really itching to do something different. This is a very tedious, kind of a boring quilt. Even though there's a lot of pieces, there's just a lot of the same pieces. So you're doing the same thing for a lot of the same, how am I going to say this? You do a lot of the same thing over and over and over, and it gets tedious. There's nothing really different. Colors change, but it's the same piece. So I'm going to finish it. I think I'm doing pretty good. I think it's going to be a gorgeous quilt, and I think she will absolutely love it. But that's taken quite a bit of my time, my sewing time. I'm running out of stuff to watch because I've been watching some stuff online, and just kind of have my headphones in. It can't be anything that I have to really watch because I'm sewing, but I'll be really glad when this is done. Let's get into some knitting and crocheting. I am wearing my Zorzal shawl. I made this quite a while ago, a year or so ago, and it was just, I felt like wearing it today. I am trying to go through and really just make decisions on some whips that I've had sitting in bags for a really long time. And it's like, yes, I love that project, but I have not picked that up in a couple of years. So more than likely, I'm not going to finish it. So these are things that are going to get ripped out. So I have talked about this one before. and the Colors of Love by Renegade Knitwear, and I had pronounced it really poorly when I talked about it before. I had started that. Love it. Love the yarn. The yarn is by Wonderland Yarns, I believe. No, it is by Dream in Color, and it's superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon DK weight in rainbow colors. It's really pretty. I have not touched this in years. The last time I pulled it out, I fell in love with it again, and I thought, oh, I should do it. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I've cut every time I did a color, but I think I can salvage it. So I have made the decision I'm just going to pull it out. For one, I'll probably never wear it, and I would rather maybe make a DK sweater and have like stripes or something. So that's my number one. That's officially on the rip out pile. Another one I started way long time ago, probably even before I started podcasting. So that's been almost 6 years as of next month. Does it date it? I don't know. But it is the Dangling Conversation shawl. And this is with Wonderland Yarns. So I'm making this with Wonderland Yarns. The fingering weight, 100% superwash merino, and that's as far as I got. And I have those colors. So I've got some blue and stuff like that it was going to go into. I haven't touched this in years. I love the colors, clearly, obviously, and I think it would be really fun, but I have not touched this in years. Probably not going to. So I'd rather repurpose this yarn into something that I may use. And so that's going to get purged as well. So that goes on the rip it pile. Another one that I started a few years ago because I thought it would be really cool to have a lace scarf. So something you just wrap around your neck that's lightweight. And I started the polka dot scarf by Church Mouse Yarns. I had seen the pattern during Vogue Knitting Live in Seattle, whenever that happened, 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. And I thought, oh, I love that. I think it's so pretty. And I started it, and it's lace. The first time I've ever knit with lace, which this, even though it's not very big, is a lot of work because lace doesn't build up very fast. And I did a provisional cast on because I thought, oh, I'll just make like an infinity scarf with it. Have not touched this in years. This yarn is, I believe, a Knit Picks alpaca lace something or another. Here it is. Alpaca Cloud. So it's very nice yarn. It's very soft, but it's never going to end up being that scarf. So that's going to get pulled out as well. Because I've already even pulled the needles out and used them for something else. And clearly I'm not going to be doing it. Another one I've been feeling guilty about not working on, and I just realized I'm just never going to do it. And it is the Trio blanket, and my friend Linda sat with me, got me started on it. It's a crochet blanket that uses 3 different skeins of yarn, and I'm doing it out of a cotton yarn, and I love the fabric it's making. It eventually starts to gradate, which just looks really cool. But honestly, I don't remember how to do it. I haven't touched this in a couple of years. More than likely, it's never going to happen. So I'm ripping it out, and I'm going to use the yarn for something else. It feels really nice. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be fun as a wrap or something? And it would. It would be awesome. But I'm never going to be the one to do it. So, and it's not very wide. Not very wide for a blanket even, but I hate to say it, even now looking at it, I hate to say it, but it uses these 3 colors of gradating cotton yarn, and this is yarn by Hobby, and I think it would look amazing. One of the things is it is fingering weight, and so it takes a long time. It doesn't build up very fast, and like I said, I don't remember how to do it. She sat with me for a couple hours just to get me started on it. And I'm sure for somebody that crochets a lot, it's really easy. For me, not so much. So I would rather reuse the yarn instead of seeing it every day and feeling guilty that I'm not doing it, it's going to be reused. So those 3 things are going to get purged, and I am really happy about that because I am and I'm not. The blanket one I'm having a hard time with, but honestly, it's never going to get finished. So I feel bad because I think the blanket would be really cool and just not something I'm going to make. Know your strengths, right? I have gotten very far on my So Faded sweater that I'm not fading, that I'm striping. I haven't shown this in a while because, unless you make significant progress, there's nothing really to show. But I am doing ribbing. I'm actually ready to bind off the ribbing. So here we go. Let me back up. And this is a gray that I dyed. And then I'm alternating the pink stripes. So this one is a Needles at the Ready colorway that I think was called Lavender. Yes. So this was lavender. It's like a dusty lavender rose color. And then this one is Dog Star Knits in that colorway. I don't know how to say it. And so I am knitting 10 rows of gray, 2 rows of whatever pink, and then I alternate which pink I pull up. So I have a question for you, and I would love your input. I'm at the bottom. I've done the ribbing, and now I'm ready to cast off, bind off. I was thinking of doing a tubular bind off because I like the look of it. But that's a lot of stitches to be like sewing. So I need a bind off suggestion. Do I just suck it up and do that? Is there a bind off that you like for the bottoms of sweaters? I'd be curious to know. Once that's done, then I'll pick up for the sleeves. And then I was even thinking when I pick up for the sleeves, I may do the pink stripes a little wider. I'm not sure. Kind of want to play with maybe doing something different on the sleeves. I'm not sure. It'll happen when it happens. But as far as the bind off, do you have any recommendations? What's your favorite bind off for the bottom of a sweater? Because that's where I'm at right now, and I'm actually going to put it on hold until I hear from somebody because I'm not sure. I haven't had the greatest luck trying to do like a stretchy bind off. I end up making it too loose, and then it ends up being like messy looking. So I hesitate to do that, where like the one I do, what do? You knit 2 through the back loop type of a thing. I think it's a Very Pink Knits showed it. And I've done that. And I do okay with socks, but when it's something bigger, it tends to end up being like ripply and messy looking. So wanting something different to choose for that. I have a half object. I showed these socks. These were socks that I knit the tube on my knitting machine. Showed how to do that, I think, on the last episode. And then I put in the heel, the cuff, and the toe. And on this pair, I tried something different with the way I mark where my heel's going to go. So I start from the toe, work my way down, and then I put in waste yarn on the row that's going to be the heel. And I was having troubles with there being a hole right here when I picked up those stitches. Well, this pair, what I did is I put the waste yarn in 2 stitches in from the edge. So those 2 edge stitches were still part of the sock. But when I picked those stitches up, I actually picked those 2 up. So it didn't leave a hole. It worked. And I'm super excited about that because that looks really nice. So I'm working on the second sock. I think I'm finishing up the toe on that. So it's almost done. But this is a colorway by Rocks and String. And I don't have the ball band with me. It's in the bag with the other sock. So very excited that I figured that out. And I'll just go forward with my other socks like that. It's very easy to do. I'm going to put the waist yarn in anyway. I just do it 4 stitches less, 2 on each side. So that works out pretty good. I did start a new project because I just had to. You know how that is. I get like obsessed. Same thing with that temperature blanket. I couldn't let it go until I started something. Well, last episode, I talked about a yarn that I wanted to over dye. There's a whole story behind it. I'm not going to go into it again. I didn't really care for the color. It's a gradient, and it went from like gray to kind of a coral pink color. And I knew I would never make anything out of it because of the color, and I thought of over dyeing it. So I did. And it was that same day that I recorded the podcast because I get obsessed and I have to do it to see what it's going to look like. And I over dyed it with a purple. So I will show the picture of the original. This is it going into the dye pot before it had, or going in, I think it was going in for a pre-soak. And so you can see the color, and then I over dyed it. And it's amazing. It is so much better. So much better. So I got where the whites were turned into like this beautiful lavender color. This was the coral, and it just turned into more of a mauve color. And then the gray is still gray, but it has a purple cast to it. And I also had about a half a skein. So this is an MCN, and I had a half a skein of undyed MCN, and I thought, let me just throw that in there. So I made this lavender color, and I am making, I didn't print out the pattern because there really isn't a pattern. I am making the Nissalu hat. So it's a stocking cap that goes to a point with a tassel at the end. But I'm not doing ribbing. I'm doing a folded brim, mimicking the Midas hat, which is a free pattern. And I've made that hat before. I made one for me. I made one for Jim. And I just like the clean look of it. And so I chose to do this for the inside of the brim. And then when you fold it, start with this. And I started with the gray. And so I am done with the brim, and I am starting to work on the hat, and it's just going to take a while. So as you can see, I've got that lavender inside. You do a purl ridge before you turn it, so that gives it a really nice folded edge. And I love the look of that little pop of color next to that gray. So this will fade. It'll go into this kind of lavender color, and then it'll end up on this mauve color. And I was afraid this was just a little too washed out. I really like the gray. I think that's going to be cool. So do I need this hat right now? No, I need to finish my sweater, but I had to see what this looked like. I had to get it started. I was just so excited about it. So I have turned it, and I'm like, I don't know, like an inch into just doing the hat. So both of the patterns, the Midas hat and the Nissalu, are both free patterns on Ravelry. Links to everything below in the description box. And yeah, I just have to knit till it's like 12 inches, and then I start doing decreases. So I have a ways to go because that's only maybe 3.5, 4 inches long. But I'm excited about it. So since I'm going to have to wait for some input on what bind off to do on my sweater, I think that gives me permission to then work on my hat without guilt. Whoa. Oh, I did complete a project. Woo, me. That's, I've been busy. So this is a cowl, and this actually is a good representation of that bind off situation I was telling you about that I started probably a year ago and would pick it up every once in a while I was doing my Zoom knit night. And it is a pattern out of Stephanie Lotvin's book, Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn. And it is the Wave at the Rainbow cowl. And the unfortunate thing about this book, it's got some wonderful patterns in it, but there's no link to like download the patterns to your Ravelry library. So in order to print it, you have to print it off of the book. And I don't like to do that, but it worked. So here is my Wave at the Rainbow cowl. I knit 5 repeats. It's like 12 inches, 12 and a half inches, something like that. It said to go to 15 inches, but honestly, I was like really done, and I thought I don't need it to be like super bulky, but yeah, it looks good. I did a dark purple for my ribbing. So this was my cast on edge. This is my bind off. Can you see how that just doesn't have it just doesn't have any structure? It looks kind of messy. Not super thrilled with that. Now, being that this is a cowl, it will be kind of squished on my neck and you're not going to really see it. You're not going to really notice it. But on the bottom of a sweater, I don't want it to look like that. It just, to me, looks messy. So I love it. I love the rainbow. I love the pattern. I think that this yarn was really fun stuff to work with. This is Kirby Werby self-striping. I haven't heard from her in a long time. It's on her Old Faithful base, Rose Apothecary Remix, which is 22 stripes. So really fun, bright, colorful. Now I can wear it because when it is in the 30s and I go for my walk in the morning, I do wear stuff. So I think that's about it. So as a recap, if you want to enter to win that quilt that I showed in the beginning, leave a comment below. And in your comment, say whether or not you want the quilt, because I will do the random comment picker thing. But if it picks somebody and it like maybe you don't want the quilt, but you just wanted to comment on something, then I will just pick the next person. So maybe make sure you have that comment in your comment. So thank you for being with me for 100 episodes. I really appreciate it. And hopefully there'll be 100 more. I do appreciate being part of this community, and I love the support that you've shown me, and it's just been a lot of fun. I've met some really amazing people, so that I wouldn't have had known had I not just decided to set up my camera one day. And it's funny because I had a friend say, your first episode came up and you didn't even seem nervous. And it's like, actually, I didn't even give it a whole lot of thought. I had seen a couple podcasts and I thought, I could do that. I want to be part of this community. I have a camera, and I just set it up, stuck a quilt on the wall, and sat down and started talking. So I probably should have put more thought into it, but I didn't. And that's the way that I work. I jump in with both feet and see what happens. So I'm glad I did put myself out there and continue to do so every few weeks. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I really, really do appreciate it. So have a good one. I hope you're all staying healthy and happy, and it's all just try and try and stay positive. It can be hard some days, but surround yourself with rainbows and it's all good. So I will see you next time. Bye.